Pika gets talked about a lot and explained properly almost never. Most coverage either hypes it as a full video generation studio or dismisses it as a toy without explaining what it was actually built to do. After testing it seriously, the honest answer is somewhere more specific than either of those takes, and that specificity is actually what makes it useful. Here is what Pika actually is. It is an AI video tool built around creative effects and short-form transformation rather than long-form generation. Pika is not trying to replace Hollywood filmmaking. It is trying to solve the first 3 seconds of attention. Once you understand that, the entire tool makes sense. The distinction matters. If you want to generate a photorealistic 5-second scene from a text prompt, Pika is not the strongest option in that category right now. If you want to take existing footage or a still image and apply dramatic creative effects that would normally require professional post-production, like melt it, explode it, morph it, animate it, add elements that were not there, then Pika is genuinely one of the best tools available for that specific job. Understanding which of those two things you need tells you immediately whether Pika belongs in your workflow. The current model is Pika 2.5, and the feature set is built around what the company calls the Pika Powers Toolkit. Let me go through the ones that actually matter for most creators. PECFX is the feature that gets the most attention, and for good reason. It applies dramatic one-click visual transformations to any video clip or image. These are the scroll-stopping hook moments you see at the start of viral short-form content. For content creators building short-form video, PicFX is a direct replacement for effects that would previously require After Effects skills and hours of work. The output is fast, the quality is genuinely impressive, and the creative range is wide enough that the same tool can produce a dramatic product reveal, a comedic transformation, or a cinematic opening depending on the input and the chosen effect. Pika Swaps lets you replace specific visual elements inside existing footage without reshooting. For example, swap the color of a product, replace an object in a scene with something entirely different. Change a background element while keeping the foreground intact. For small business owners shooting their own product content, this is the feature that eliminates the need to reshoot when something in the original footage is not quite right. It is not perfect, but for straightforward replacements, it handles the job cleanly enough to be genuinely useful. Pick Additions drops new elements into existing footage that were not there when the original was filmed. Add a character walking through a scene. Place a product into a room it was never photographed in. Insert visual elements into footage after the fact. The quality depends significantly on how well the new element matches the lighting and perspective of the original clip. When conditions align, it is seamless. When they do not, it is visible. This is a feature worth testing on your specific use case rather than assuming it will work for every scenario. Pika Scenes generates full short cinematic scenes from a text prompt or image input, which is where Pika operates more like a traditional AI video generator. The results are stylized and visually distinctive, more cinematic and intentional looking than raw text-to-video outputs from some competitors, but also more stylized rather than photorealistic. For mood pieces, abstract visuals, and creative short-form content where a specific aesthetic is the goal, Pika Scenes produces strong results. For situations where photorealism is the requirement, Veo and Kling produce more convincing footage. Pikaformance is the feature I did not expect to find as useful as it turned out to be. You upload a still portrait, a photo of a person or a drawn character, add an audio track, and Pika animates the face with lip sync, eye movement, and facial expressions that match the audio. The result is a talking avatar generated from a single image in under a minute. For faceless channels, educational content, and anyone who needs an on-camera presence without filming themselves, this is a meaningful capability. The quality is not flawless, but for 30 to 60-second social clips, it produces results that work. Now, the honest free tier reality, because this matters for anyone who found Pika through the previous video about AI video tools and assumed the free tier would support a full workflow. It does not. The free tier lets you test Pika. The paid tier is where you actually build with it. The free plan gives you 80 monthly credits at 480p resolution with a watermark on all exports. In practical terms, that is roughly 30 usable standard generations per month, about one per day with no room for the iteration that good AI video work actually requires. The free tier is genuinely useful for testing whether Pika fits your workflow. It is not sufficient for consistent content creation. For that, the basic plan at $8 a month removes the watermark, adds commercial use rights, and gives you 700 credits, which is enough for regular posting with moderate iteration. That is the honest minimum for treating Pika as a production tool rather than a testing environment. Here is where Pika sits relative to its direct competitors, because the honest answer is that the right tool depends entirely on what you are trying to do. For photorealistic video generation from a text prompt, Veo 3.1 is the clear winner. Kling 2.6 is the strongest alternative, and Pika is not your first choice. For dramatic creative effects applied to existing footage, Pika is far better, and nothing else in this comparison does the same job as cleanly. For cinematic B-roll on a budget with long clip support, go with Kling 2.6. For portrait animation and talking avatars from a still image, Pika's Pikaformance and Hedra are both strong here, with Hedra having slightly more polish on longer clips. For free tier volume and no watermark, Seedance and Veo currently offer better free tier access for everyday use. The decision framework is straightforward. If your primary need is transforming footage you already have, adding effects, swapping elements, creating dramatic opening hooks for short-form content, Pika is the tool built specifically for that job. If your primary need is generating video from scratch that looks photorealistic, start with Veo or Kling and treat Pika as an effects layer you add on top. Pika matters because visual effects that used to require an editor and motion graphics skills are now available to a solo creator in minutes. For creators running short-form content on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube Shorts, where scroll-stopping visual hooks are the competitive advantage, Pika's effects toolkit is genuinely valuable. For creators who primarily need long-form realistic video generation, Pika is a secondary tool at best. That specificity is not a weakness. It is what makes the tool worth understanding properly, rather than dismissing or overselling. If this kind of honest breakdown saves you time and money on tools you are going to test yourself, subscribe and I will keep doing this every week. See you in the next one.